World War I, the Great War, or the War to End All Wars, originated in Europe and was fought between the Allied powers and the Central Powers. The Central Powers primarily included the German Empire, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. The Allied powers primarily included France, Great Britain, Russia, Italy, Greece, and the United States. Many factors contributed to the start of the war. There was much concern over other countries' military expansion leading to an arms race. The influence exerted by military leaders took a stressful toll. Many countries also feared losing economic and/or diplomatic status. There were long-standing ethnic differences and rising nationalism in the Balkans. There was French resentment of territorial losses in the 1871 Franco-Prussian War. And following their 1871 victory in the Franco-Prussian War, the German states unified into a single nation. The match that lit the fuse, however, was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir apparent to the Habsburg throne of Austria-Hungary, and his wife, Sophie, by a Serbian nationalist on June 28, 1914. By the end of the war, the Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian empires ceased to exist. Harsh surrender terms were forced on Germany, which spurred World War II, and the borders in Europe and Middle East were redrawn. Media was a large factor in how the war played out, specifically in the United States. The industrialization boom was coming to a close, and the United States was feeling confident and ready to show off our shiny new machines and prove our strength to the rest of the world. Yellow journalism, which is journalism that is based upon sensationalism and crude exaggeration, was huge in the media and strongly influenced the population to support the war. A specific example seen in World War I is atrocity propaganda, which focused on the most violent acts committed by the German and Austro-Hungarian armies, emphasizing their barbarity. These posters portrayed crude and disturbing images and quotes about soldiers raping others and spearing and eating babies. Not all of this media was true, but it spurred emotion in the American people to enlist. Media also encouraged citizens to ration their food so that the government could provide more for the military. Don't just take it from me, though. Take it from a mom who lived right through the Great War.
The media and the public are highly influential for us. Seeing the posters about Germans eating and killing babies, it's totally unrealistic, but it does spur our emotions. I can't imagine them coming over here and hurting my own children. It's difficult, but if conserving food and growing our own gardens will help the soldiers who keeps us safe, then of course I'll do it.
A Committee on Public Information was created to sell the war to the American people. They hired journalists, authors, songwriters, artists, and many other media specialists to help sway the people in favor of the war. Many people were upset about the crudeness of the media produced and spoke out. Committee Chairman George Creel had a different viewpoint, however.
We did not call it propaganda, for that word in German hands had come to be associated with deceit and corruption. Our effort was educational and informative throughout, for we had such confidence in our case as to feel that no other argument was needed than the simple, straightforward presentation of facts.
Yellow journalists themselves had more of a neutral standpoint on the topic.
Of course it's propaganda. What kind of sick person actually eats babies? Whatever. If it gets people to support the war, that's all I care about.
In response to protests, the Espionage Act was passed in 1917, making it illegal to aid the enemy, give false reports, or even just interfere with the war efforts. Despite the law, Eugene V. Debs was arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison for making a speech that obstructed recruiting.
Of course my incarceration was unfair. I have the right by the First Amendment to voice my opinions. I'm opposed to the form of our present government and to the social system in which we live. I believe in the change of both, but by peaceful and orderly means. In no way was my speech intended to be violent. I was thinking only of the families who, mother, father, and children, are all practically forced to waste away in the factories to get by and pay the bills, and scrape by with what food they produce in their gardens, all to support the war.
In conclusion, media both aided the war effort and created a small war of its own in the United States. Propaganda created patriotism for most, but for those who wanted peace and spoke out about it, created exactly the opposite.
I believe in the change of both, but by perfectly peaceful and orderly means. I'm opposed to the form of our present government